Hey everybody, which is actually nobody right now, but may eventually be other people. I don't think the bot has posted an announcement yet. Yeah, and it's weird. There goes. Yeah, every once in a while it takes a long time. Hello though. So yeah, there is something I wanted to test. I really need to do a code review at some point too. This part's done. This part's done. Let's write the journal for today. Journal is whoops, that wasn't supposed to happen. That also wasn't supposed to happen. There we go. So we are going to say music creation and then I guess idle ascendance. Spent the morning making music. Didn't make a lot of progress, but it was fun. Mentored Kyle and then spent the afternoon working on idle ascendance. Yeah. James, thanks for resubbing. And hey, Alcohol and Q. Is Smooth here? Probably will be eventually. Quick as lunch. Yeah, it was very quick. So part of the reason why is because it is 107 for me and I'll be leaving at 3:30, which I did not know about until lunchtime. So I try to speed up lunch as much as possible. For those who don't have the context here, let me show you what happened in the last few days, which is that we uploaded this game to itch. And so now it is, oh, I got to change my volume. I hope this isn't super loud. All right. Anyway, we uploaded Idle Ascendance, and I'll just pick a character. Doesn't matter. And so now this is playable, and you can play this too if you want in your browser. The entire point of this was just to get feedback to figure out, is the game worth pursuing? And we've determined that yes, it is worth pursuing, but there are some weird things that people didn't really like, and then some rough edges. And so one of those things was I set up the game to be manually controlled at first. And you can see there were two bars that just filled up. One is this blue bar. That's your character's turn timer. And then the other are these bars for the buttons here. And you can see only Fire Blast turned green, for example. That's your ability cooldown. So there are two cooldowns in the game. And the only, like, I can't use Lightning Zaps or Boulder because they're on cooldown still. So I have to pick Fire Blast. So that's one thing that was a little confusing to people, is like, how are these things working? And the second thing that was a little confusing is like, why even have you pick these things at all if you're just going to eventually automate it out? And so what we're going to test out today is, what if you had no manual control and your abilities use themselves as soon as they were off cooldown? No streams next week? No streams this week. Did I write that correctly? Yeah. Maybe that's what you mean, but yeah, no streams this week beyond today. And then yeah, by the way, there normally wouldn't have been a stream on Tuesday, and I want to get back to no streams on Thursdays. So it really only would have been Wednesday and Friday anyway. Skittercat, thank you too for resubbing. What was the important part here? Yeah, the important part is, because I haven't taken the last couple Thursdays off, I just have a ton of tasks that have been accumulating, and I want to finally take some time to do them so that I don't feel like I'm underwater all the time. And then we're going to get back to kind of normal content, which will be game dev for a while. And I'm very excited about this stuff. Oh, hey, Darkstorm. I don't know if I said that. I'm very excited about this stuff. I think it's going to be good. So yeah, I want to prototype this thing, and then I kind of want to put it up for testing, but maybe I shouldn't even do that, because I'd probably want to separate that game into a different one. So next thing to prototype a new ability system, get rid of player turns, get rid of manual control, have abilities be used as soon as they're off cooldown. Yeah, so let's go do this stuff. Also, should I save this chord progression? These chord progressions I've been making? Let's just save them somewhere. I'll just write them in my stream of consciousness thing. And yeah, negative 14.4 is good. DBs. There we go. Let's write this in stream of consciousness. I'll just put this up here, and we'll write this. Some chord progressions. Cool, that had nothing to do with this. Now let's go code the thing that I wanted to code. Do we have any outstanding code? No, we do not. So all we're going to do is, how would I do this? I should probably make a new branch for this stuff. Well, that's if I'm going to check it in. Maybe I won't check it in. So getting rid of manual control and getting rid of player turn times. So First thing is let's change this so that this is every 2.5 seconds, I guess. It's pretty much the same. Missed the AAA music production stream. I mean, it wasn't very good. I wouldn't say it was terrible, but I didn't really do anything other than just improvise for a lot of it. So all of the debug abilities should be set to 2.5 because this now represents what would have been turn time. Also, speed isn't going to have an impact. Maybe speed is how fast you can cast. It's like a cooldown multiplier. I got to write all this stuff down somewhere, so let's go pull up the design document. Yeah, we're going to change this. Just so much of this is going to change. There's so much work, and I'm looking forward to doing it, but it's going to be a little overwhelming at first getting things set up. So I think the next month is going to be pretty tough, and then after that, I think it's going to be just regular, like a challenge, but not super tough. Yeah, so much here I got to do. All right, so my own thoughts on the prototype. I don't even know where we wrote this stuff down. Where did I write this down? Something about cooldowns, right? I don't even know. Come on. Yeah, this. Okay, cool. So we got to write down if we go this route, then the speed stat probably needs to change or cease to exist. That's it. Okay, now let's go over to all of our skills. We're just going to try out the warrior at first and see how this works. So we'll say slash is every, I don't know, 2.3 seconds. And crush is every, say, like 3 seconds. And sweeping arc is every 4.1 seconds. I am not trying to balance this stuff. We're just trying to see how the system works, how it looks. So you have that blue cooldown thing. Where does it even show up? It's just a rectangle, but I need to know where it is. Yeah, LSRP. Battle window. Turn cooldown bar. Yeah, so that thing. That needs to go away. Turn cooldown bar. All right, delete you. Delete you. And process turn cooldown bar isn't needed anymore. Time until turn. All right, I'm going to copy paste this for a sec. We're going to delete this entire thing. Process turn cooldown can be deleted. This is a lot. There's a lot that needs to be done here, and thankfully we're just prototyping this. This is why it's nice to prototype things in the first place, because you're deleting your garbage code for other garbage code. So if we're going to shrink this, we should probably also shrink the battle window a little bit. I don't know if that's just going to work. No, it won't, because that's a background. Oh, how fun. All right, well, whatever. I'll shrink it a little bit, and we'll just move these things up. Where is the, is it all just this? That should maybe work. Old garbage with new garbage. In with the garbage, out with the garbage. That's what I always say. Right, so is pause should never be true now. This is only set to true if you would pause the whole battle. Yeah, there's no such thing as pausing the whole battle anymore because there's no more manual input. Oh man. All right, we're gonna have to change a lot of this. I like these new acronyms we have. Old garbage, new garbage. So this won't be needed. This won't be needed. Oh, thank you, LSRPNet. Thanks for resubbing. Happy Monday to you too. People have been very nice with subs today. All right, so if is fully automated or randf is greater than this automatic usability, so take your turn for you just always happens. And ability buttons probably need something with them. I have probably broken this because the way that, how do enemies take moves? How do they do that? Battle process, time until turn. If time until turn is less than or equal to 0, then take turn. Okay, that's not how that's going to work anymore. They need to just cool down their abilities, and when an ability is ready, it just uses it immediately without using skills at all and do it manually. Oh, you mean not automate your character so that you're, oh man, don't do it, Xanis. It's a waste of your time. It's like a huge waste of your time. Yeah, don't do it. Just fake that you did it and then take a screenshot and make it look like, you could still brag about it. I won't call you out. But yeah, definitely a waste of your time. All right, so battle process is just processing debuffs. What processes ability cooldowns? I don't think anything did, now that I think about it. Yeah, I don't think anything did. I think take turn just made sure you had an ability that could be used. Wow, that's it. Okay, well, that's not how this is supposed to work. Okay, so we need this code to still be here, and this should work for everybody now. So this part's still there, that's fine. If it's the primary character, it actually doesn't matter because it's just going to act like a regular character now. Then we're going to pick a random usable ability. If the ability is null, there is no more cannot take turn. This isn't needed. Time until turn shouldn't even exist. Took turn, time until turn. Actually, you know what? I guess stuns could work by just making it so your cooldowns don't reset for like 2.5 seconds or something, right? Stuns altogether are going to need to change. Yeah, I gotta write that down too. The speed stat probably needs to change. How stuns work need to change since there's no concept of turns anymore. Yeah, how would you stun a character then? I guess you could just say the next ability they would have used doesn't work, but that doesn't really make sense. I guess you have to stun them for a length of time instead. E.g., a 3-second stun is probably close to what stuns used to be. Well, a 2.5-second stun, I guess. Oh, okay. Yeah, so this concept of stunning, I'm just not even going to work with. It doesn't matter. So cannot take turn otherwise. So when does this happen? Cannot take turn. That's now gone. So delete that. So ability. Yeah, and this concept of keeping track of enemy turns. Having the battle keep track of turns at all wouldn't work. We need to keep track of time. That was just for the simulator though. Okay. So we pick a random usable ability and then say that you got a turn, I guess. The way this really needs to work is we need to pick all of your usable abilities though. So what we're going to do is we're going to do it this way. We're going to say ability equals this. And while true, do this stuff. And if ability equals null, then break. Level 6 and haven't died yet. I mean, level 6 is not bad, but that's it's going to be annoying to get too much farther. Not too much farther, but like there are going to be some levels that are frustrating because your power level is going to be lower than it should be. I should just modify the game and just let you skip automation. Yeah, now beat the boss. You could actually win it with no difficulty whatsoever. You'll stop when it sucks. Okay, yeah. You could win with no difficulty whatsoever if you always just fight in the level 1 area, because after 100 fights, you will level up and you are guaranteed to win all of those fights. So you will eventually, after whatever, 5,000 fights, be ready to take on the boss. all for nothing, just to be clear. Like, I feel like I'm wasting my time by Zen is wasting their time. Is this music? No, this is Patrick. All right, so we pick abilities until you no longer have an ability, and then we need to call this with even your character. So if is finished return, ability cooldown minus equals whatever. Yeah, so I think this might be enough to get the warrior to work. Let's try it out. Start new game, warrior. Why are there 2 errors here? Probably from things I just didn't. Yeah, is fully automated and cannot take turn. Is not present. That's not good. Yeah, there are no usable abilities. This function shouldn't even be called though, right? Wait for player to have usable ability. It is not. Okay, cool. Let's see. Let's see what this does. Go get into a battle. And now abilities should just use themselves as soon as they're ready. Okay, this is pretty cool. Yeah. It's also much more powerful because I'm using like abilities 3 times the speed. Neat. So now there's no point in the automation ability. Okay, so that's the warrior. Let's try out the other characters. I didn't specifically change their cooldown, so Fire Blast might be like super powerful. This is definitely easier to understand and probably easier to balance and easier to design. I want to see how the Necromancer works. Yeah. Yeah, this is cool. I wonder if this means you could just go fight level 7 enemies because this was never supposed to be balanced around this. It pretty much does. Is this too much happening though? Maybe I should only give you 1 skill. I'm kidding, but that would be kind of funny. Is it Zelda meets League of Legends? No. So you're basically making it automated from the start? Yeah, I think so. I think we really need to lean into it. I think the manual stuff wasn't doing anything really. I think the way the manual stuff could have stuck around is if you made the game about changing genres almost, and then you probably have to change genres another time. I'm not sure. Are you using it? Program Chatterino as an app that comes bundled with all of the various emote extensions. I'm not using it, no. I'm just using regular Twitch chat. I was using a bunch of custom tools for a lot of this stuff and decided I'll just use the easy stuff for now. Couldn't the first area be manual? So it was. I mean, it technically is in the prototype. But so this is how it worked before, right? You'd have to, click and choose what your abilities were. But what does this do for the game is the first question. And the second question is, how does this even work if we change how abilities are used? So in the new system, abilities are used as soon as they're ready. And there is no concept of taking turns. So what would you be doing in this world? Like clicking a button as soon as it lights up? There's no decision, I guess. Now, where there could be a decision and the battles don't really support this is if there's an ability you need to use at a certain point. So imagine something like a Dispel ability, which removes a debuff from you. You don't want to just use this every time it's ready because you might not have a debuff. But anyway, that situational usage of an ability would not probably be fun in the level 1 area. So yeah, I think we're just going to delete it. Guess number 2. Oh, wait, we're actually guessing here. You can play the game and check it out. It was essentially supposed to be like an automated old school RPG where there are turn-based battles, but they're just playing out for you because turn-based battles generally aren't all that fun. If there's a mana cost, it would matter when to use it. That's true. And so that is a way that this could be done. Yeah, and I guess that's worth considering, but I kind of like the system right now that there isn't really mana to manage, just cooldowns. Can you choose them and they're used automatically when you start? The skills are going to be fixed at the start at least. So like the warrior will start with whatever 3 it has right now. But it's kind of up in the air of like the way that this worked over here at least was that you could equip different abilities. So like I've equipped Slash, Sweeping Arc, and Crush on my mage. And so now when I get into a battle over here, you can see it's got slash sweeping arc and crush. But I don't know exactly how it's going to work yet. What do you have, a bag containing healing stuff, which you can use on all characters? That way they aren't spells. I don't want you to have to manually control use of healing items. And I don't mind that they're all spells. I think that's fine. You can have auto abilities and other special abilities. You can, yeah. So, okay, hang on. Here's the thing that I was thinking here. First of all, I just don't think... I don't think we need manual control in battles. And the player has to learn it only to stop using it ever. Which is kind of weird. But then there's a question of like, should there be mana? And if there is mana, then there's the concept of using it poorly. So I'm leaning toward no. I think simple systems are the best, and I think this is probably the simplest system. I think it's really easy to understand what's going on too. It's like this bar fills up, it uses the ability. You immediately see like something got poisoned. And it'll be pretty easy to follow what's going on because you're like, why am I not summoning a skeleton? And then eventually, let me fight something that's more this level I should be at. Eventually this bar fills up and I died. Okay, well, never mind. But I think it's straightforward. I think it's clear enough how it works. And it cuts out quite a lot. And so I'm leaning toward that we just do this. Is there a difference for AFK versus active play? So in battle, no. There's nothing you can do in battle. You can't, like, these look like buttons right now because they are, but they won't be in the final game. They'll just be cooldowns, basically, and that's it. Yeah. But this is not intended to be an idle game, pretty much. Like, there will be something you're doing, and it's not going to be infinite. You will get to the end of the game, and you'll beat it, and that'll just be that. And so we have a lot of design to do, and I think that's probably what we should do for the stream. I've got about 2 hours, and I think we can spend some time working through this. This was the thing I wanted to prototype, by the way, and I'm pretty convinced. I think this is a good system. Yeah. I think it's a good system. Oh, man. All right. We just have a mountain of work, so let's go start on it. First, let me figure out where this document is. That part's easy. Details. It is in... You know, I've never liked this about Google Drive, or Google Docs, I mean. If you go to document details, it just says location, idle ascendance. I want to know where this folder is. And the only way to do that is to go to Drive. But, like, I have folders named public and private, for example. And I have many of these. So, like, I have Adam Learns, and then within that, I have public, for example. And then I have, you know, Xtonomous or something, and within that, I have public. And so sometimes I'm looking at a document and it says, oh, yeah, I'm in the public folder. It's like, well, which one? I have many. So in this case, I guess I just got to search idle ascendance. And where do you live? File information, show file location. Here it is. Okay, yeah, so I have 2 documents in here. Idle ascendance and scratch. And so we're going to make a new document now. And we're going to call this. This one's not going to be public. Oh, is this in the public folder? Oh my God. So annoyed. This should have been the easiest thing, is make a new file. And I'm stuck on this. Give me a sec. I want to figure out where I have this folder. It's in game design. So game design is not necessarily public, I guess. Yeah. All right, yeah, cool. Then we're going to call this Simula Fantasy, because that's the crazy name I came up with. There's a way to move them from the docs page, if I remember. Maybe you can find what that is. Oh, I guess there is move. Yeah, I never thought about that. Let me see what happens when you do that. Oh, that's pretty good. Yeah, that seems to kind of work. Well, it doesn't tell me which folder it's in still exactly, but it's better, I think. My direct control, I think, should be for retreating when you're about to die. Should be a chance for escaping number. I know I'd use it, especially when dealing with higher level enemies I want to mess with. But the death penalty isn't so bad. Like, I just... My gut feeling says that if the only manual control you have over a battle is ending it by leaving, that it's probably not a compelling use of any manual control. All right, yeah. So Simula Fantasy, we're gonna consolidate my stuff over here. Close out of these things. Close out of this. Where'd the design document go? Here it is. All right. So I still want my overview here, and I think this needs to be a little bit more thought out. The game is an auto battler RPG, a laid back, simplified auto battler RPG. Yeah. I think this sums up everything, well, except for the typo. I think this sums up everything that I want to say about it. Now, the whole what makes it stand out is definitely worth asking. If you were to start trying to make a double A game, how long would it take you? Multiplayer / single player? It all depends on the game, right? Like, even if you just said, hey, if you want to make a single player game, there's a big difference between Tetris and Minecraft, for example. And multiplayer games, there's a big difference between Pong and World of Warcraft. So, yeah, you'd have to specify what kind of game you're making. Jumping out of battles in games like FTL, where it's extremely useful. I played FTL for like a minute, maybe. I think I don't know why I stopped after that, and maybe I only remember, or I'm like misremembering this. So I don't remember the battle system, but I think the important part here is you could have many of these fights going on at once. And I think FTL was you had one fight per time, but I don't remember. What did I say that's taken out of context here? But the death penalty isn't so bad. Okay. I see. I saw you say clip that out of context, but I thought I said something else. I knew it. People could code Minecraft clones pretty quickly, yeah. Also, that is a tough sentence to say. People could code Minecraft clones. Could code Minecraft clones, yeah. It's not that tough. Okay, so that was the easy part. Notes to stream audience. You are here. Do a fun check. Yeah, I guess really it's you are here. Yeah. And I'll write an update on all of this. Update. So this document is just for archiving. The game was released as a prototype on itch. And I no, nothing like that. Welcome to the stream. Certainly that's not a thing that I said in context. Game was released as a prototype on itch. What just happened? Oh, are you kidding me? This is actually kind of a docs bug. Yeah, check this out. So if you highlight this text, because it ends in a URL, if I just type Command K, it turns it into a link to itch. But like I want to make this into a link to the thing that was on my clipboard. And apparently it didn't like that. All right, well, whatever. I'll just do it this way. There we go. And then we'll just type itch.io. Yeah. And from that, we were able to determine that the game was worth pursuing. And I guess let's go to this and take a screenshot. There we go. Saying like you were making a mid-scale Souls multiplayer game. I would say something on the order of like a year and a half, probably 2 years, something like that. It also depends on your team size, right? And I'm making a lot of assumptions too. But yeah, imagine you have a team of, 2 developers and an artist and a sound designer, music designer, UI designer. So we're talking like, somewhere between 8 to 10 people. And yeah, year and a half, 2 years, something like that. Hey, Balsa Plane. Looks great so far. Yeah, and it's playable. What are some hard to say phrases in English that would make your tongue twist really hard? If you look up tongue twisters, you'll find a bunch in English. Um, yeah, any of these sorts of things. This is one of the most common ones, I guess. She sells seashells by the seashore. Hey, baby bees. Yeah, check out the keyboard command if you want to find out more. Yeah, the game has been renamed. I think having idle in the... Why did that not work? Check out the keyboard command. I think having idle in the game is not a good idea. It's still not working? What is going on here? What does it think I said? It's check out that? Seriously? Okay, well, we should probably code around that. If match is none, return. I don't want to write this out right now. Yeah, I'm not going to deal with this. Whatever. You heard Jenkins in the level 45 room, yeah? All right. So this document is an evolution of idle ascendance and its prototype. Yeah. Yeah, I can. I just didn't feel like testing it right now, and if I got it wrong, I might just remove everything. But yeah, it's not a big deal. I'll just type out the command for now, by the way. There you go. There you go, baby bees. Okay, so design philosophy for this, or maybe I should write like development philosophy. Prototype new systems the same way that I did for idle ascendance. Code quickly and sloppily and test so that we can test the system. Do this in a separate branch. Yeah. I mean, that's pretty much the only thing I wanted to write down that I can think of right now. All right. Does it make sense to even pick your starting class in this game? I mean, I guess if we give you one of like 3, yeah, I think it's important to still have a starting class that you pick. I don't know if we're actually doing this all right now, by the way. I want to answer some questions. Yeah, I think we should just answer some questions. So what's the new title of the game? I mean, I guess I want to write this down here too. Title. I don't want... Actually, let's try it like this. Don't want the word idle in the title. It makes people think of having almost no interaction with the game and having infinite gameplay, having microtransactions, and having a prestige/ascension mechanic. That's some bad typing. I won't be rushing as much as in the actual project, but I still think it's important to rush things that you want to test. So, for example, this thing that I just coded that lets us now use abilities as soon as they're ready. So let's walk over to an area that's roughly our level. I guess up there. Yeah. So this system of just using abilities as soon as they're ready, I think that's really important to test out that way. But yeah, for everything else. So don't want the word idle in the title, and I guess do want something that communicates that it's an auto battler or a simulation. So Simula Fantasy doesn't exactly roll off the tongue. So I'm not super happy with it. But it communicates that it's a simulated fantasy game. And also sort of, yeah, it's pretty much just that. Simu fan. Yeah, any sort of cutting back on that, I think wouldn't work exactly. Like we cut down on simulation, I suppose. Oh, we only got rid of one syllable. What about using static instead of idle? Just to give the idea that you don't need to constantly move, but can linger in a single place at a time. There's a lull at the end of that message. So I don't know if you're kidding, but yeah, I don't think static would make sense as in the name of the game. It would imply remaining stationary, I think. All right, so new title, sure. What do I want the player to do? Several have said it's not fully idle. Others said that there's not much other than parking the character. What do I want? I feel like you need to position this as a simulator game and lean into that. Night simulator program. I think a certain space program would have an argument with that. Leaning into simulator games. So there this isn't really the total name of this, but I feel like there are two classes of simulation games. Ones that try to simulate something in real life. So these are things like lawn mowing simulator and Euro truck simulator. And so here you're like, this is the true meaning of the word simulation. You are copying something in real life and you're trying to get the same general mechanics. And then there's the other one, which maybe I'm thinking of incorrectly here, which is like a simulation of something in software. And I guess I kind of think of this as like town simulation games, I guess. Life simulation games. And so what I'm trying to essentially get at is like RPG simulator is kind of how I think about this. And I think that sort of gives off the right impression, but I don't like this as a name because I think that if you type in RPG simulator, that already exists. And I tried some other things like Simland. I don't think Simland would be too bad, but that exists also. And then Simuland, I thought that was pretty good too, but that exists. And that's what led me to Simula Fantasy, which doesn't come up with anything, but also doesn't really mean a whole lot, I guess. More an RPG than a simulator. I don't know. I don't know. Yeah. So, title aside for now, this is at least the new working title, and I'm fine with this for now. But yeah, we got to answer some of the questions. How do we lean into the simulation aspect? And not from the title perspective, from the gameplay perspective. Have you considered instead of going to the enemies come to you? Yeah. And even if that weren't the case, there should at least be a way for your character to like automate itself toward an enemy. So is there anything else we could do here? And I guess the way I kind of think about this is like, yeah, what does it mean to lean into simulation? And it could be having lots of something. So like, what if you had, 50 characters, something like that. And then you start to get into it. Okay, now you're talking more about a management game, which I don't know about. More like a management game. I guess there's another way we could do this, which is take more mechanics from the source material, which in this case is just RPGs. So it could be something like I don't know. I guess we have leveling up and maybe we have equipping your character. This is an item system I haven't really talked about too much other than exactly on Friday. But I thought of a cool idea for an equipment system for this game. And I don't think any other game could have this work for it really. But you have the paper doll of your character or whatever. And I keep showing like the Diablo 2 character screen for this. But yeah, imagine you have this. So you have, no, inventory screen maybe? Yeah, imagine you have this. So here you got a helm and armor and rings and whatever else. And you never filled these yourself. They only ever filled themselves with strict upgrades over the last gear that you had. So there is no inventory management and there's no gear management. This is just a representation of you getting more powerful. So you might complete a quest that says you unlocked, whatever, great bow. And yeah, sure, you get a weapon that does, 4 to 5 damage. Then later you're like, you completed an even better quest and you unlocked, fiery great bow and now it does 7 to 9 damage. But every single item is meant to like strictly increase in power level. So there's never a choice that you get because this is not meant to be a game about loot. But that could be a really good system, I think. And I'm definitely leaning toward that. So that's maybe something we have to like rapidly prototype and figure that out. Now, thankfully, it does a lot of good things for the game. In fact, if I haven't already written this down, I should write this down. Yeah, so benefits of this system. It satisfies people's expectations to have items. It can be developed pretty much in isolation since it just affects stats. Doesn't add to the choices that you make other than at a high level. E.g., this quest will increase my power level, so I will take it, rather than which of these 10 items do I use. And what's the last thing here? I guess makes use of item sprites that we probably get in asset packs. Like I have some already. And then there was one other thing I wanted to say. Oh yeah, allows us to grant rewards, like permanent rewards, I guess, that aren't just experience. Yeah. Yeah, a lot of games you're managing your inventory, you're equipping things. Yeah. Will there be a story? Probably. We're gonna have to figure that out too. Yeah, probably. Yeah. How's the prototype feedback been? It's been good. So like I said, there are about 35 responses. Almost all of these were on Friday when I was playing the game on stream. And I had fun playing the game. You can see about 3/4 of the circle is either red or blue, which is strongly agree. So like most people had fun. And some people would purchase it. And then at the bottom here, I had one other chart, which is, are you interested in playtesting improvements? And yeah, like 90% of the people said, yeah, they would. So I think that's good. I think that's promising enough to want to make the game. So that's what we're going to do. So are there any other systems? Are there any other systems we could simulate? And there certainly are, right? We could have like a quest system, a town building system, a crafting system, or whatever else. And while this is a way of doing this, almost all of these would add complexity that I don't think would necessarily help. Yeah, so farming could be in this sort of thing, kind of both of these, I guess, but like a farming system or something like that. And when I say simulate, in this case, we're not talking about the real life simulation, right? Like if you were doing lawnmower simulating, you want to simulate what it's like to have a lawnmower, presumably how you start it up, how it's powered, how whatever, the limitations of a lawnmower, right? In this case, the simulating we're talking about is how do we act like we have that system? But we don't want a quest system and we don't want a town building system. We want you to sort of think that you have those. So I think that's how we could lean into this. And I wonder, like, one way of doing this. So, for example, you could have a quest system where it's like every 5 levels, your character gets a quest, and the quest gets completed after 5 levels, 5 more levels. And like that's it. That's the simplest possible way of doing the system, right? You hit level 5 and it's like, hey, go slay a dragon. And you never actually slay a dragon. You hit level 10 and it's like, cool, you did it. And you just sort of imagine that it happened. Maybe it's like rescue somebody or something like that. And that's what I mean by the level of simulation, just to make it clear. So I don't think that's a fun system, but I think that's what I'm talking about when I say simulating. The way you'd really do a quest system is you would have it so that there'd be a dragon in the world. You have to go slay it. And when you have slain it, you get the reward that the quest would have given you. And then you need, quest management UI and tracking your stats and everything. And it's just, that's why I want this to be simulated if I'm going to do any of this. So I at least think that's the portion of this. I'm going to copy this stuff here. And we're going to put this in the bottom of this document. There. So conclusion from this is if I'm going to add more systems from RPGs, I want to drastically simplify them. And then make sure they're adding something to this game to justify the increased complexity. Possibly better equipment. Yeah, that's something I just talked about. So this still gets us back to the question of what do I want the player to do? And let me put chat over here and this over here and do one of these things. Yeah, why implement the thing when you can just implement the idea of the thing? That's exactly the question to ask here. All right, so what do I want? And to be honest, I think I want this battle system to still take the forefront of the game. So let me restart this so I'm not super overpowered. We start a new game, we click Necromancer or whatever, we go over to a battle. I like this new system of abilities to just use themselves as soon as they're off cooldown. I think that's really cool. I think making your battles go really quickly or be very synergistic, I think is really neat. I think feeling that sense of progress is also going to be cool. And now that we're flirting with the idea of team battles, I think that unlocks some other things that we could potentially do. We were talking about team battles only for bosses. So I think some amount of like a little bit of a planning aspect of this game, like, hey, I want to get to this zone. How do I get there? And you're like, oh, I need to open this door. And you hover over the door and it says you need to kill 5 bats. And you're like, okay, cool. I'll go do that. I think that can be cool. I like the idea of zones being kind of this size too. I think there's a lot that's working here. I just still don't know exactly what your decision tree is. It's going to be character management for sure. And I think upgrading them through skill points is cool. Will you have enough of that to do in the game? And if you do I even need another system? Because maybe it is just that. Maybe it truly is just what was in the prototype plus the extra systems that we've designed already. Honestly, that's probably what we should start with. And some people will just get it and have fun, and some people won't get it, I guess. I think another question we need to ask, though, before... Oh, thank you, AFH, which is what I'll probably call you. Thank you for subbing. Level 27, still having fun. Wow. Will there be PvP? No PvP. No. Will you even see the items window? You'd probably see the items window, yeah. And you could probably hover over them, and there'd probably be some description of, like, here's how you get items or something. Keys for chests to get better weapons. How you would get the items could be, yeah, through a chest, through a quest, through anything that ends in est. How many years before the game releases? It'll probably be this year that it would release. How's development going? Been a while since I checked in. It's been good. So I launched the prototype on Friday. It's playable if you want to check it out. It is done as far as I'm considering the prototype. So where's the thing that I wanted to show? Let's just show this one, I guess. I got these responses of people were mostly having fun playing, and I'm like, okay, cool. Then the prototype serves its purpose. We should make this game. So that's where we stand now, as we're we're designing the new version of the game that's going to have taken all of this into account. So yeah, that big question that I just had was, what's the elevator pitch for this game? And I feel like for me, it's going to be some amount of like the laid back aspect is pretty important, the auto battler aspect, and the like removing the tedium of typical turn-based games without entering the predatory nature of idle games. That's my take. Has a few negative connotations that you listed, but from listening to the last 20 or so minutes, sounds exactly like an idle game without much purpose in it. Maybe I'm misunderstanding, but I don't see anything beyond fights, which you don't actively participate in, and moving it to the next room. I don't think you're misunderstanding. I think that's the thing, is that it is largely idle, but so are a lot of other games that use the word auto in them. So we've seen a lot of automation games and a lot of sort of management or simulator games. And all of these are in the same general boat of like, you're not directly controlling your characters. So yeah, we gotta test this out and kind of see how this all works. But yeah, I think the name idle gives you, it very much locks you into the impression of like, I'm doing almost nothing. And then there are certain mechanics that people expect. And I think this is a marketing thing that's really important, which is if you lock people's expectations in the wrong way at the beginning, then they're going to have less fun. That's generally what happens with the games. Save a copy of the prototype. Oh yeah, we'll always have these videos too. I'm going to probably make a video on this stuff tomorrow. I'm not sure. In a chest by a quest during a fest. Yeah, but only those options. Nothing else. Cannot be from killing an enemy. Unless that enemy was the best. I was using the possibility to do other things while I'm gaming. Yeah. And whether or not this is called an idle game, it's still going to have these idle aspects of it. Yeah. Game has a ton of playability for me because I get to be creative in the grind. Where's the creative part here? I don't think there's a ton of it. I think it's controlling your skill tree. But I don't think this is really creativity so much as it is like what seems cool to you. Like one of my goals was essentially, I guess there were kind of two here. It was like improve what I disliked about idle games and improve what I disliked about turn-based games. This one sort of fell by the wayside because it's now no longer manually controlled or turn-based. But so this is kind of what I was focusing on. And I think, like I said, the things I didn't like about those games are they're generally infinite. They're just like visualizations over number systems, which I recognize you can say almost every game is just a visualization over a number system. But what I'm talking about with idle games is the fact that you're battling or the fact that you're playing Breakout or something, none of that actually matters. What you're really doing is you're controlling what are the optimal increases in numbers, because the visualization is just a visualization. You don't interact with it. You like the concept? Yeah. Thank you for testing it out. Yeah. Anyway, no. I totally understand LSRP. I know where you're getting at here. I don't have a compelling elevator pitch for the game yet. As in, I think the game is fun. I think when people play it, they'll generally have fun, I hope. But I don't know how to convince them they will in a succinct sentence or two. Can the character be fighting while you're gone or offline? They could, but I don't want that to be a part of the game. And that actually is a hallmark of truly idle games, is you just literally like turn your phone on, leave it on your desk, and then walk away for a day. And when you come back, your phone battery will be dead. But then when you recharge your battery, you'll realize you've got, 7 levels of progress or 700 levels of progress or something. And I just don't want that. I recognize that this game can be played like that, but I want it to be more like a more closely managed idle game that doesn't have these gigantic curves in power that happen. Dungeon Lounge or something like that. First thing that came to mind is something that's probably not adult friendly or adult only. Like combine the fantasy name with the lounge name, you get Fantasy Lounge. That wouldn't work. But yeah, Dungeon Lounge or something. And I think it's worth coming up with this before releasing the game because you might lean into that aesthetic. So imagine it's actually Dungeon Lounge, and imagine that there's a castle in the distance and there are people like sitting on lounge chairs in front of it sipping drinks. And so it really gives you that impression of like, oh, it's a dungeon lounge. Like, yeah, you're going there to hang out or something. What's the compelling factor that would make me want to do something on screen as opposed to putting my phone down for a day, to your point? So I don't want the game to support you putting it down for a day. So that the compelling factor is like a requirement almost. So if you picture in idle games, the game pretty much makes you put it down for a day because you just don't get progress that fast. But in this game, imagine that you get progress and I don't know, you need to come back and like learn your skills or else your character won't be powerful enough to do anything else. And imagine that that happens at an interval that's like every 10 minutes. Now, I'm not explicitly aiming for that sort of cadence. But in that case, you'd be like, oh, if I haven't put my skill points in, I'm just not going to win any fights anymore. Then the game is essentially forcing you to play it instead of be idle about it. I know I haven't fully answered your question, by the way. I know your question is like, yeah, but sure, why would I want to play it? And I think that's where it's like, it's hard for me to convince people that they might want to play, but I think when people have played it, they've been like, yeah, this makes sense. This is fun. Anyway, that elevator pitch part, I think we need to write this down. The reason why I think this is important is because I'm having a hard time convincing people why this game is fun. But it seems that when they play it, they find it fun. So maybe we could lean into whatever aesthetic is implied by the title. As a good example of this, Paper Mario is an RPG, but it's called Paper Mario because the entire aesthetic of the game is everyone's made out of paper. And they're two-dimensional and there are jokes about this and there are things that you can only do if it's paper, like you can roll Mario up and he slides under a door or something. And all the games have really leaned heavily on that aesthetic. It doesn't communicate what the game's about. You wouldn't know this is an RPG just by reading Paper Mario. But yeah, that aesthetic is there. Oh, thanks, Smo. Auto battlers tend to be on the strategic side. Not sure if that's what you're going for. Yeah, I think you're right about auto battlers, and yet I don't want to use auto battler in the title or anything. So I think if I explain it by saying there's automated combat or automated combat, something like that. I think there's a way of massaging this so that it makes sense, but I think that's one of the pulls of the game. Would there be something else I can do while waiting for things to happen? Solve mysteries, collect stuff? Probably not. Yeah, probably not. But I'm not sure because I think for some people that'll be maybe, I don't know. It's so hard to know about this. But yeah, what if there was one other system, like, and really highlight this one here, one other system to complement battling. So like, what if it was something really zany? Like, not zany would be farming, but a zany thing would be something like, I don't know. I'm going down let me just think out loud. I'm going down the path of thinking about quests, and what if there were like you're raising quest givers, you're crafting quests or something like that. And so you might imagine like ingredients to the system are things like farm or kill 5 boars. And this is literally an item. It's like a scroll of paper that says kill 5 boars. And then there's another scroll of paper that says grant a rusty sword. And you combine these two things and you get a quest. Kill 5 boars and win a rusty sword. And like this is the thing that you're doing. This entire machine of battling is just to pump out quests for adventurers. So something like that could be kind of interesting. So you're like a story writer for adventurers? Well, in this case, yes. I don't like the idea of crafting quests exactly. But I don't know. What if it was like a world building thing? You are battling so that you could. This is kind of going back to what we were talking about last week when Monadic Mind was talking about Forager. But what if, yeah, you start out in the game and all you're seeing is this forest area. I can't zoom so that it's possible, but like this, for example, that's it. That's the whole world. And your character battles a few times, and what you've unlocked is like seven cave tiles. And once you get 100 of them, you can unlock the cave world up here. And you do, and now you, well, let's just say it was like this. You unlocked 100 mountain tiles. Now you have the mountain zone. And you're building the world through your battling. I don't know. I don't think that works either for this, but there's maybe something along those lines. It's peculiar. What causes these three things to show up here? I wonder what those are. What if there's some existential problem that all this fighting is in support of? Maybe people at your camp are starving and need to go deeper into battle. So that would be the more story-driven reason for this. What I'm thinking of is an actual functional system that would be in the game to complement the battling. And I'm not opposed to a story for this. I think we need to come up with that too. Got to manage your team to accomplish that. Oh, I wasn't even thinking about that. I was thinking about your characters are fighting because they're all quest generators essentially, and they make these quests, but like that they don't ever complete them. They give them out to other adventurers, and the other adventurers are sort of implied in this game. But this is my, off the cuff thinking. I need to think of a better system for this. There are character titles, which could be just quests you discover. Yeah, I do remember you talking about that in that document. Let me try to think of a more okay. Let's go not zany for a second. How about we talk about this? What if there were a farm, and your battles were to unlock, seeds for the farm, and your characters got farming skills. So you had a choice between +1 lightning damage or +10 lightning damage or something like that, or like +10% farming speed, for example. And so you had to put your characters onto the farm, and maybe it'd be kind of funny is if the farming actually played out as though it's part of the battle system. So you get into a fight with, let me take a picture of this. Actually, this could be kind of interesting. You get into a fight and these are really seeds, and your character has like water and plant seed and whatever else, and they are doing those actions, and you see these plants grow, and that's how you get your farm. So that would be an interesting way of being like, okay, it's still sort of the same systems, but now you have a different reason for picking skills and for doing things. I'm gonna crit that wheat. What if you were commanding the fighters? So instead of implying your character fights on its own, they're fighting for you, the leader. Yeah, again, that's like a story reason, I think. And I don't think there's a problem with that. It's just what I'm talking about right now is what if there were another system that's actually functional in the game? Hey, Gazella. All right, I should take a break though. Let's continue this when I get back, and we'll talk about some of this. So I'll be right back. Is it jump time? It's jump time. everybody, close the game. Yeah, so that idea about farming, you know, it's tempting, I guess I'll say. It's tempting. It's definitely way more complicated to add in another system, and especially one that kind of uses the battle system. Like, I wasn't kidding when I said that the idea would be something like what you saw here, that this would say water plant and you would just, yeah, your character would just be doing stuff in here. And so if you have a player-wide ability that says something like lower your cooldown by 10%, that would help both your farming and your battling. You like the farming idea? I mean, one of the problems with that is it adds a completely different art burden to the game. Like, how are you managing this? And something, actually, you know what? You can kind of reduce that burden a little bit by having it change the zones themselves. Like, imagine that this didn't start with a tree here, and you need to plant a certain number of trees in this zone. Or maybe you are shaping the world. Maybe these zones start out as like nothing, and you somehow are building there. Are we pivoting? I don't know. I'm just ideating right now. This might be a waste of time, and it might be something that we strike gold. You can just keep, yeah, whittling them down. You can, but they heal at the same rate that you do, so you got to be a little careful about it, I guess. Simraria. They spawn monsters if you don't take care of them. The problem I see with this sort of thing is that how would you know what it is you're doing exactly? All right, well, let's write some of this stuff down. So yeah, what if we added another system that complements the battling for the people who want multiple things to do? It would give you something else to manage. And so as a thought, what if you farmed using the battle system? So you fight a seed and you have abilities like water or encourage, and the seed would grow. And if you won the battle, or maybe it just takes time, then you get a plant on your farm. Or maybe you're shaping the whole world. You enter a region and it's empty, and you slowly build out the landscape with trees, wells, mountains, etc. I think this could be interesting. This tells more of a story to me. I just don't know how you would do any of this. Maybe just leave your character AFK at some zones battling and you have a separate window for the farm. I was picturing that the farm would be on the map somewhere and you'd be changing it that way. Have you set up any analytics or logging? No, this was all done very hastily. So the only analytics I have are the ones that Itch provides. And for that, we have this view here. So there's been about 1,000 views, 586 plays. It was mostly on Friday when I was like, hey, here's the game, everybody. It's really hard for me without abilities, yeah. Yeah. I still get a sense of progress. It would, although I guess the question would be like, would players even know that it's happening if it wasn't at the core of the game? Like if this well weren't there and you saw it just appear, would you know why it appeared? You'd probably be like, oh, this is something I need to move on to, right? But it doesn't really work that way. It would be like, oh, you created this here and you created this pond here too. I think it'd be a sort of cool way of showing progress of there's a final way of showing the zone, but it starts out as just a blank green rectangle and you're filling it in. And maybe that's playing into the story too. Maybe it's like, look, the world was just erased. We don't know why. Go unerase it. You ever document the interview process with Google? No, it's very well documented though. Like if you were to go on YouTube right now and just search for Google interview process, you'd probably find people talking about the exact process. So it's not really a secret or anything, I think. That's your game name on Unerased. Yeah. I could say this could play into the story too. Maybe the world was erased and you're filling it back in. But I think the whole point of any of this would be to give you some other system to do when you're like, okay, I battled a bunch. Now I want to dump some progress into this other area of the game. Yeah, the assigning workers bit too. I feel like, you know what, maybe maybe this does combine RPG with RTS a bit. You can control your characters as groups in the farming aspect or whatever it is. But they're mostly solo otherwise. Is need an icon, a name, how they affect the overall major stat. Also, I meant to show chat over here again. I mean, all of this represents a level of complexity I still don't even think I want, though. I think it need to be clear what it is you're doing exactly. And there needs to be a way of choosing that action. And unfortunately, I mean, this is one of the benefits of the current game is that it's just battling. So you move, when you move on to something, you get into a fight. And like, that's that. I do like the idea of reusing the battle system for something else, though, and I think that would make the most sense. It's a system that's already automated, it's in place, and yeah, sometimes they're battles and sometimes there's something else. And actually, it's kind of a funny idea just in general. Like talking to an NPC could pop up the battle dialogue, but you have talk here, and that's it, and it just fills up and it talks and it fills up and it talks, and like you're seeing the story play out that way. That would be purely aesthetic. That doesn't really make a difference to whether you're seeing dialogue or not. Yeah, I do like the idea of reusing the battle system for things that aren't battles. Yeah, talk, annoy, poke and shoulder. Yeah, I just don't know how you would trigger this stuff since it all takes place via movement right now. It could be a totally different region. But if it's a region, it's gonna run in the same sort of things, and then it's just some layer of automation, whether it's battles or not. As in, imagine you had, we're in the starter zone here, and this is a battle zone, but then this one's a farming zone. Like, if, at some point, you would probably just move your character here and be like, all right, go do all the automated stuff like you'd be doing in a battle. And sure, they're different actions, but they're not like super meaningful actions. So I guess that's where we would have to say that this doesn't reuse the battle system. It would be something more manual. And if it is more manual, is it tedious? Is it just combining two games for no reason? I'm sort of inclined to say we just don't need this. However you do this, it would either get automated out just like battles, or it would involve special manual actions that may as well be a different game. And I don't know, some of this could be prototyped. Like I said, if we were to have this idea of world shaping and you are like placing the world, then we can't just proceed with the game as planned and then later be like, oh yeah, oh by the way, you're making the world. Let's go add that in. And the reason why that wouldn't work is because we have too much tied to that aspect of the game. Feed the whole village, save the princess, beat the antagonist, leave the planet. If all you're asking for is a storyline, like I said, I think that's doable and I think we'll have that. But in a lot of storylines, there's some functional component to it as well. Like, hey, you know, the big bad character just burned down your town. So now you need the artwork to show it's been burned down, and it's not just said to you. That's my point. Is give you something else to do besides just the battling. Yeah. So not just a reason, right? You woke up in a dungeon and have to get out. All right, I want to come back to this at some point. Like, is there some other system besides battling? Is there a need for something else? It may help break up the monotony of the game, which is sort of a cornerstone of this kind of game. I don't think I played Satisfactory, so I don't know about that, but yeah. Yeah, I guess there are two parts to it, right? One is a goal and the other is some like functional piece of that goal. And so saying something like save the princess doesn't affect Mario at all, right? You could have said, "Hey, you are trying to save the world," or "You're trying to go eat a tasty pizza." Either way, you would have been jumping on Goombas and stuff, and eventually at the end of the game, you would have seen a pizza instead of the princess. But it didn't have a functional aspect of the game. It did affect the probably promotional art and the instruction book and all this stuff of like, oh, there's a princess behind all of this. And technically at the end of each of the worlds, it said the princess is in another castle. So they kind of mention it, but yeah, it's not like, oh, hey, you're rescuing the princess, so you're going to need a key and whatever, a springboard and something else. Smooth. You're a farmer who's also an RPG player and you're in a fever dream. Yeah. I think we're talking about progression, numbers go up kind of stuff. You need a horse and get a horse, you need to beat Axe and to beat Axe. Yeah. That's what I'm getting. Yeah. Right. So in Mario, it didn't matter. And yeah, what you want is a story with a functional component to it that gives you other quests or tasks that you have to do. Yeah. So I think we need to consider this. The story on its own may not be that. It may just be a tasks generator, and that it gives you things to do and a reason to do it. I want to make you wait to level 60 balsa plane. Try not to spoil your mood for it. I'm still looking for it, but figure you might be interested. I'm aware of incremental games. Incremental games I typically would call idle games, and I think they're predatory. I haven't seen the subreddit though, but I've played a bunch of incremental games, and like without fail, I think they start out kind of fun, and then they become like number walls that happen. You hit some like you need 1,000 times what you've currently got, and so you wait around for hours, and then they're like, well, now you need 10,000 times what you currently got. Now you wait around for days, and it's all a matter of optimizing your way through this like massive slog of time so that you can get that dopamine hit of like, I'm about to experience some progress. It's going to be amazing. And I recognize that that's what the game might seem like it's going to be, but that's not what I intend for it to be. Yeah. An anvil to make the new gear that auto applies to you. You do this if some battles are too hard and you need a little boost. Yeah, I think for that sort of system to work, you need it to be like a pretty fleshed out system. Like I think it's kind of funny to reuse the battle for some other minor thing and have it not be some major system that we have. So could be kind of funny to reuse the battle UI for mundane tasks, e.g., maybe opening a door gives you the options like batter and try to open, and you need to batter it 5 times before the opening works. Or there's an NPC and there's talk and joke or something. Picture Undertale for a lot of this. Is that a Moonlander? No, this is a Corn keyboard. Battle UI for a conversation would be funny. Yeah, and so I think it'd be funny, but I think this is just like a minor idea. All right, let's keep looking through the questions. Yeah, so what do I want the player to do? I mean, that's what feeds into this. Make this skills into icons and they have a tooltips anyway. We need to write some UI thing somewhere still, and I think this will work fine. Post prototype conclusions. May want to make the skills and icons so they have tooltips anyway. Now, so their names aren't super important. Maybe show a radial timer. Yep. Those need to have fun prestige mechanics. Yeah, I do want to steer away from that as a genre for sure. All right, what else do we have here? How do I want skill trees to work? Lots of ability choices and the option of equipping different ones, or just a different bunch of mods and more character classes as a result. Do have different abilities, downplays the concept of needing different characters for different zones. Also, different abilities may make you want to respec more. Hey, Paj. Oh, man. So, I sort of wonder how much fun would you have playing a game like this that was really polished, but like mostly on rails. So, for example, imagine a skill tree with no wrong choice. Just whatever you put your skill point into, it works. The game is balanced that way or whatever. It just works. And so you feel like you're progressing, and you are, but there was really kind of no challenge to it all. Because that's kind of what I'm wondering about. You just created Diablo 4. Well, we have these skills, and you can equip different ones with these checkboxes that are over here. But what if we got rid of the ability to equip different ones? Then it's just, okay, you have these 3 skills and you're upgrading them, and they're always equipped, so it doesn't really matter if you couldn't remove your skill points. I like that idea. I just like that idea. I just don't know what people are going to think about it exactly. Also, should you ever be able to get like a 4th ability? That'd be kind of cool. Yeah. I like the idea of just getting different mods. I know some people who played the prototype chose different abilities, but I think that's where just having different characters will come in handy. A farming skill tree. Well, what's oh man. Like this has to be explored. If I could come up with a compelling enough second system that could exist that complements battling, yeah, maybe I'd be convinced to put it in the game. And yeah, I don't know what it would be. And some games, like the original Final Fantasy VII, you could raise chocobos, and that system in itself was like practically its entire own game. You fed them, you could breed them, you could race them, you could do functional things in the game with them. They could fly or they could swim. And I don't remember if they affected battle or not. Creating chows from Sonic Adventure. Man, the chow system was another one of those things that was just very fleshed out. It was like the reason I played Sonic Adventure 2. Because only, well, I mean, only some of the characters were fun for me. I really like the treasure finding aspect as Knuckles or as Rouge. If you had a pet animal or a trinket and you have to do stuff to upgrade it and maybe help you in fights, your pet can be evolved in a skills-based minigame. Yeah. Yeah. I think no matter what the system is, no matter how compelling it sounds, I think I'd have the same general questions. General questions about any secondary system is how are you interacting with it? So the main game is yeah, pretty automated. So like, is this automated too? If so, does it feel drastically different? Which choices are you making? If it's manual, are you just ignoring battles at some point? Are you already ignoring battles and this is the thing that you're doing? I think there needs to be a second system or something. Yeah, so a lot of games in this general genre or adjacent genre end up just throwing in like every possible system you could imagine. And at any point you interact with one for a little bit of time and upgrade a bunch of things, then you go over to another system and upgrade that a bunch of times. And I don't like that because it's almost arbitrary. It's just like, well, hey, you might have gotten bored here, so go do something else. And maybe at some point we bar you from making progress until you've filled this out. Is the purpose of a secondary system to keep you in the game as opposed to putting your phone down? The game itself is going to keep you in the game. So I think that's an important thing to clarify here. Like, the main game won't be automated to the point where you can leave it for, 15 plus minutes and still make progress. And the reason I think this is important to say is it's like, imagine in Mario World 1 map. Imagine that you automate it by holding down the right key on the controller. Why is it so hard to... Yeah, here. Okay, so here's a good example of this. Mario 1 World map. If you were right here on this brick and you held down the right arrow, you would move to here and then you'd be stuck. So you made progress to that point and you have to come back and like jump. And now your character can move to here and then you would die to the Goombas. But anyway, imagine they're not there. You'd move to this pipe and then you get stuck. And now you actually can't really do anything up here. You have to jump through the whole thing manually. And then you can get to here and you get stuck. So that's kind of what I'm talking about. At no point in Mario, if you had the right arrow held down on your controller the entire time, could you get more than like 10 or 20 blocks, right? So this game is going to kind of be the same way in that I don't expect you to be able to just like sit there because the game it doesn't facilitate you doing things for like hours and hours on end without being there. Your progress in one system affects the other. Yeah, although that becomes kind of hard to balance sometimes. Like, what if you ignore the second system because you were good enough at battling, or your characters, it just worked out that way, or I had it hard to balance a game. And then when you finally get to the second system, you like blow through the first 2 hours in 10 minutes because you were overpowered for it. What engine am I going to be running? Probably Godot. Yeah. I did the prototype in Godot, and I think it should be sufficient for the final game too. But yeah, welcome to the stream. Maybe this is really the only major question that I should be asking. Doesn't autofighting imply that all I have to do is get my character there? In this analogy, it's like you hit the up arrow every once in a while, but it doesn't really matter when. You can't die or hit something. Yeah. So the getting your character there part, I'm still not totally sure what degree of automation I'll give you. So yeah, I guess I haven't fully settled on this. I see what you're saying though. But I guess the important part is in traditional idle games, you really can leave your phone for like 2 days, and if you were making a trickle of progress, you'll have eventually gotten all of the progress by the end of it. Although those games are usually gated based on exponential curves that then just math is what's stopping you. But yeah, I think this is the important set of questions about this stuff. So how would I want you to interact with the system? And at a high level, I guess, should the secondary system be just as automated as the main one, or more manual? And if the main game is automated, then I guess the secondary one has to be manual to, yeah, offset what you're doing in the main game. And then, yeah, what is that system? And doesn't this essentially make it an entirely separate game? Essentially, yes, but lots of games do that. Like the Chow Garden was like its own game in Sonic Adventure. Okay, so then you run into the question of if it's manually controlled, what is the style of manual control? Skill, strategy. Well, I guess skill versus strategy. So by skill, I mean something like, imagine a first-person shooter. A first-person shooter, if you have the best aim in the world, your strategy probably doesn't matter too much. Whereas chess, there's no skill moving the pieces. It's all strategy. You can assume that a computer can move your piece for you. So like, I don't think the skill part or any dexterity should probably be there. I think it should probably be decision making. I think it should be more strategy oriented. And then even when it comes to strategy, you have different kinds of strategy. There's like optimization kinds of strategy, optimization like puzzle kinds of strategy. Becoming the thing the player primarily interacts with. I'm not totally sure. Like, I still think that even if the main, like the battle system is automated, there's still going to be some way you're doing something about it, and that's still sort of how I had planned for this to work. And I'm still leaning toward that. Like, I'm still not convinced about needing a second system, and I think people like LSRP would probably just not find the game fun, and like you just lose that segment of people. So I still think that's what I'm leaning toward. But I want to explore this for the sake of still being in the design phase and being able to explore it. Be able to do. Well, there's nothing stopping you from having like a move queen, whatever. I don't know the chess notation. E5. And so yeah, what do I think about this? I think puzzle is probably not a good idea. I think some optimization based thing would probably make sense. And yeah, I wonder what it would look like. For whatever reason, in my head, I have this picture of just this giant fish tank, and you're just unlocking fish. And you're putting them in the fish tank, and you feed them every once in a while. And for whatever reason, that's the secondary component of this game. Can I have your ace chows? Yeah, I'll contact Sega right away. I'm sure they'll sign over the rights. Any updates on the parties? The only update is I am leaning toward the whole stand on 2 summoning circles and they could join a battle. Do I know you, Zyzer? I don't know from just this. But hi. Yeah, I'm leaning toward a party system for the boss battles, but other than that, nothing. And I was trying to think about this some more. Like, is there a better way of doing this? Would I want parties more often? And yeah, I just don't think it's a good idea. I think they should be there for boss battles. No, but that shouldn't matter. Okay, then I guess the answer is no. Is there anything else? I guess if I just kind of consider. Okay, I have another idea here, but it's not necessarily a great idea. But it could be a different way of doing battles. Like there could be, instead of battling these three enemies, for example, or this one enemy, it could be that there's like a line of enemies behind them and they slowly enter the battle. Hmm. A giant mug they have to fill with water. I think of that as more like a, hey, find the zones with water in them. So like a very tiny side quest. And at that point, it just becomes like a hunger bar in a game. I think it gets to be tedious. Is that VS Code? Yeah, I'm doing that with Espanso. So they're text expansions, and I've got them for all sorts of things like symbols. I've got them for long words I don't feel like typing, like this or this or this. And I've got them for, I don't know, fixing stylization. So if I type MacBook without a capital B, no, wait, is that how it's supposed to be typed? I don't even know. If I type JavaScript without a capital S, it should automatically fix it. Does it not? No, I don't know. Maybe I deleted some of those because they're just. Yeah. Yeah, it's really helpful. I definitely like it. And especially for typing things like emojis, it's like you don't need to remember how to type an emoji. It's usually pretty fast. And you can combine them. So like cheer, I think, is 3 emojis for me. Or type things like this. Yeah, I'm not sold on this. And I think the core problem is this. Whether another system is even needed is tough to determine right now. And adding one later may involve reworking the whole game. And I think that's my issue. And that's what's making me lean toward I'm just not going to do this at all because I think enough people found the game fun as it was where hopefully they continue to find it fun. Just trying to think of other things. Yeah, I'll need to sit on this for a bit, but yeah, I think I'm leaning toward not having something else. Yeah. So if doing this, the system would need to be manual to offset the automation of the main game. It's okay if it resembles an entirely different game since that's how many games do this anyway, e.g. Chow Garden in Sonic Adventure. I'll go back to what I said. I think we're talking about secondary systems because we're not compelled that the primary system is engaging enough. Well, like I said, I think my answer is that it will not be engaging enough for some people, and that at least the majority of the people who played the prototype were like, "Yeah, I had fun playing this." So that's what kind of makes me wonder, like, what does this chart look like for something like, I don't know, Overwatch? People who say I had fun playing the game. Is it a 70% thing? Is it a 30% thing? I mean, I know it's Blizzard behind it. I know Overwatch is a totally different game. But there are going to be some people who are like, I don't like Overwatch. I wish there was, I don't know, a farming game in it or something. And who knows, Overwatch could have been like 10 times the game it currently is if there were a farming game in it. And I think it's hard to know. Yeah, I think it's this. It's just hard to know whether you need this until maybe it's too late. If you make it to have a lot of downtime, a secondary thing is good. Yeah, I think so too. And I think just managing the characters might be enough. Was it overwhelmingly positive because all the people in here like you, like the things you do, and are rating understanding that there's 10 minutes of playable content there? Yeah, I don't know. And so the way that we're going to proceed with this, I'm pretty sure, is going to be to just have regular checkpoints. And 1 month in, we have a real game that looks pretty much just like the prototype. But then 2 months in, we have a different game. It's like it's more evolved. And maybe at this point, more evolved, more gameplay, maybe, I don't know what. And maybe people don't like it. And then we might be able to say, like, all right, well, yeah, this isn't working, and we could pivot. But I think it's pretty hard based on the prototype to say this is pointing to some like major change being needed. And I say this with kind of everything, but I could be shooting myself in the foot here, right? We just won't know until the game is out. And even once the game is out, let's say it makes $50,000. We won't know would it have made $500,000 if I had done something different. I didn't vote. I enjoyed it because I like Adam. I've proved my objectivity. Yeah. Yeah. So I think we're probably going to put a pin in this for now. And if something comes up and I'm like completely convinced, I think that's fine. But a lot of the times, at least this is what I felt, is that when an idea strikes me that I'm like, okay, this is definitely a good fit. It feels like a good fit right from the beginning, and I'm more convinced about it. And I've had this happen even with some big things. So this, for example, we just coded this today, right before this. Now abilities are used automatically as soon as they're off cooldown. So like if I get into a battle with this thing, we see lightning zaps and boulder are about to come off cooldown and they'll get used, and blam, the fight is over. And it's like, I haven't balanced the game around that, but I think that's a much better system. You now don't have to worry about like, what am I clicking these buttons? What do these do? You don't have to worry about what is that bar about your turn cooldown. It's just pretty clear when you get an ability, it uses it. And I think this is the distillation of the battle system, and it seemingly makes so much sense to me right now. It's like if you already were going to have the strategic depth that you might have of regular battles of having to choose things because you were going to automate it out anyway, then you might as well do something like this and make it very clear what's happening. Excuse me. So I'm happy with this, and this represents a big change from what was designed. And that entire thing was done because someone had said, yeah, this XSR RSX said, maybe this was ruled out in the design phase, but have you considered putting each skill on its own cooldown and just executing them when ready? And so, yeah, we did this, and like I wrote a star next to it. I thought it made sense. The other thing is that people had been asking for like, hey, can you have party-based battles? Can you have party-based battles? And then someone suggested it to me in a way that I'm like, oh, that could work. Where was it? Yeah. Someone's feedback said feature team battles where you can fight the same opponent with multiple characters. That was what other people had suggested, but then they said this part, maybe a colored circle shows with the text 2 out of 0. And when you move 2 characters to it, the fight starts. And I'm like, oh my God, this bypasses the entire need for a party UI. You just on the fly move one character to, you move one character to here and one character to here. And if they were both on these like summoning circles, then the boss battle starts. And I'm like, perfect sense. That's great. These characters aren't tied to a party. You don't have to like split them up later or drag and drop anything. You literally just like use the thing you already have in the game, which is to move around. So those things struck me, and I'm like, we should definitely do this. Those were not necessarily new systems. They were revamping of existing things, although the party system will be a little bit new, I guess. What was for lunch? I had chicken tacos and some roasted vegetables and an apple. Yeah, so I'm feeling more confident about this. Yeah. Hello, new chatters. Your chicken tortillas, nice. Yeah. Yeah, I'm feeling more confident about this. And it's probably worth writing this down for now somewhere. This thing about what's the fun in this game. I think it's like we've made it and I shouldn't keep questioning it. And if some people don't like it, hopefully it's not a ton of people don't like it. So where is this? Yeah. And I want to write this conclusion down somewhere. Maybe I should even write it in the final thing. Oh yeah, produce checkpoints every so often that people can play and give their feedback on. Good questions to ask. Like, I had fun with the Likert scale. I had fun. I found this better or worse than last time. Assuming they played last time. And then the typical feedback stuff from this form, which was what improvements would you want to see and why? And what was the last one? Any other thoughts you'd like to share? Yeah, I think both of those are pretty good. Hey, Rust. Need more dopamine. Oh, yeah. For anyone who is only just seeing this now, this was like the most hastily put together prototype I could have done. This was done in less than 3 weeks. We got it, game world, enemies moving around, characters, skill trees, the battle UI. So I just cut a bunch of corners, and yeah, when the battle ends, it literally just says what plus 100 experience or something. So yeah, the final game will have, like, the battle will linger around a little bit longer. Oh, no, LSRP. It's totally fine. I get it. And I don't think it came off as negative. I think it is always tough to know when someone's feedback represents sort of your target demographic of a game or the audience that might eventually play, or just that person's feedback. And yeah, anyway, I think it was worthwhile to talk about this. And even if it just sort of solidifies how I was feeling about this, at least now I've got something I can point to about it. Oh, thanks. Yeah, it's a Corn keyboard if you want to take a look at more of this. Also, the vacation, it's actually not the vacation that's coming up. This week is just catch up time. End of May is the vacation. The end of May, by the way, that vacation, I'm not going to be like doing any work. I'll probably just like respond on Discord every once in a while to some people. But this week is almost purely work and some household chores and stuff. And I just can't stream during the time. Okay, so extra systems. General design stance is that the prototype was deemed fun by the majority of people. Granted, they may be biased. And I want to develop mostly that game, but with improvements. So as a result, I don't think any new big systems are worth doing unless we identify a need for them. Ideally, the occasional checkpoints in development will help suss these out. Yeah, there's no follow age command. You just have to click your thing you've been following since 2019. And thank you, LSRP. I could just add it, I guess. ACOM follow age. Just click your profile to see the follow age. I removed the command for this from a long time ago because it triggered a bunch of chat spam. Trying to flex my almost 5-year mark. I see. Yeah, that was the problem with the follow age command originally. Whenever you have a command that tells someone something specific about them, like a points command or whatever, then a bunch of other people are like, oh, I didn't know that. Well, what's mine? So instead, now I have something like this command, the points command, which just goes to a leaderboard where you could just search for everybody. And that way, no one has a reason to type it twice. They can just go to the same link. Everyone spam that command now. All right, I'm happy with that. And we might identify, by the way, it's still a risk here, right? We're 2 months into the game. We say, oh man, yep, this is lacking. Everyone's giving us feedback. We need farming in the game. And at that point, yeah, hopefully we haven't like made a Steam page yet. Actually, do Steam pages contain the name of the game? Like if we go to Steam Undertale, does it have Undertale or does it have some like made up ID? Yeah, it's app and then a number. Okay. So presumably you could change everything about a Steam listing then, including the name. Because that's one of the reasons you wouldn't want to do this. You don't want all your marketing materials to just not match anymore. And I'm not going to have time to make a lot of marketing materials beforehand. So we're going to mostly wait until the game is done. Like I might have I don't know. We'll figure a lot of this out as we go. Certainly going to be a lot of work. All right, so let's keep going through the questions. Normally I'd take a break pretty soon, but I think I'm going to just barrel through the last, 20 minutes and then I got to get going anyway. All right, so does the skill system make sense? Would it be better to have to pick 1 to 3 mods rather than leveling them up? I think the skill system makes sense, yeah. What I meant by this, originally I was planning something different. So as you level up in the game, you could equip different abilities. And if you had leveled up, let's say you put 5 points into this and 5 points into this or whatever, and then you're like, you know what, actually I want a different ability. Well, there's 9 points you just spent. So now you need a respecialize ability or something like that where you can reallocate your points. And if you can reallocate your points too frequently, you might as well just not even have a skill tree. Or not quite that, but at least in this game, it wouldn't probably make sense. So instead, I think what we're going to do is we're going to have it so that these things just don't even show up. Just your 3 abilities are always your 3 abilities. And you have, instead of just 2 mods for each one of these, you have maybe 3 to 5. So you're picking which one sounds best to you. And yeah, I don't really feel like there needs to be any wrong choices. And that way, who knows, maybe you want like a super powerful fire blast on your character. And maybe you want a balance of the different things that you have. I'll have to figure that out. There needs to be a way to get enemy information in the game at some point. If I'm going to do resistances, which we didn't code in the prototype. Will you be able to get them all maxed out? I don't think so. Or if you can, then it's like maybe you can beat the game at level 50, let's say, but you need to get to level 100 to get them all maxed out. So it's like, okay, if you feel like doing that, then be my guest, but the game doesn't really expect you to do that. So need a way to see enemy information for things like resistances. I think resistances are a good idea still, even though we didn't code them in the prototype. What are the questions? What do I want the player to do? Yeah, I think it's just manage more characters. I think there will also be like small tasks in the game to unlock various regions. And yeah, we'll see how that goes. How do I want the skill trees to work? Lots of ability choices and the option of coding different ones. Yep, we're just going to go with different mods. Is this doc public? Yeah, this doc is public. It's in the idle command. But the one that I'm going to start making won't be public. All right, so conclusion about skill trees. I do just want mods. Yeah, I don't want you to have to equip different abilities. I think that's where having different characters all together will come in. It's easier to design, to balance, and the battles don't matter that much anyway. Now there is a question of like, okay, let's say you had 40 different mods for each ability and you could pick as many as you want. What happens if you somehow just get to ignore all the other abilities? Like, Boulder targets all the enemies. So what happens if you just put 5 points here, 5 points here, 5 points here, 5 points here, 5 points, and you get 40 points or 40 times 5, 200 points. And now Boulder kills everything in one hit and it just always gets used. And that's where I'm like, well, I guess the resistance system needs to come into play. So like Boulder deals earth damage and you just come across earth immune enemies or enemies that can only take, 5 damage max at a time. Something like that. I definitely think that needs to be done. That like special enemies thing. And I like that idea of zones where that happens. I think that can be interesting. But then you're not changing your character. I don't think that's an issue. I think that's where leveling up new characters will come in handy. Yeah. What if you only really need 2 characters? Longer cooldown and more point investment. That could happen. There could be a mod that says like add 20% damage, but also add 10% cooldown or something. But I think that would be kind of tough to figure out. Damage, health, mana, spread these across different skills to encourage upgrading them steadily. Oh, you're saying like the mods could give you stats as well? Actually, I never thought about that. I'll write it down as an idea. The mods for a skill could also give stats. E.g. plus 10% slash damage, but also plus 10 life per level. Ever need voices? Thanks, Ryan. Yeah. I don't think this will be a voice acted game at all, though. But I appreciate it. This actually gave me an idea that some of the mods could be Booleans. Like, you know, Fire Blast causes damage over time. It's just a Boolean. That doesn't really make sense. I mean, you could scale that, so it's pretty easy. But maybe there's something like Frost Nova freezes the enemy. And now it's like, well, you're either frozen or you're not. Although even that, you could say you're frozen for a certain amount of time. Yeah, I think it'll be interesting exploring that. I'm not super confident about some of these decisions, but you won't find out till you play it, I guess. So smooth movement over grid-based movement. This is something that I am torn on, and I'm more leaning toward the grid-based movement. So like you go to move a character, and it's kind of hard to do because I didn't code this the right way, but like you can only move right, down, down. And so it's pretty much doing what you're seeing here, where it's smoothly moving between tiles, but you can only arrive on a tile at the end of this. As opposed to what I did code in the game, which is just being able to move wherever. So yeah, I think the cardinal movement, would it make sense to move diagonally? Like adjacent tiles? Because it does look a little weird when to get from here down to the bottom right, you have to go down, right, down, right, down, right, instead of just a diagonal line. No, I think we should do the grid-based movement. I think that's okay. Yeah. You get frozen if you get very high cold damage. That bypasses your base cold defense. I think freezing an enemy should probably be a property of the skill and not just doing too much cold damage. But yeah, that could work. In the actual project, you won't have primitive types, but damage source data containers. You mean I won't have like explicit character types or something, right? You're saying I'll just have some like node that happens to have a collider component or something on it? Because yeah, that'll probably be the case. Okay, yeah, I think this is worth writing down. I don't know where we even write this. Maybe in design and movement or something. Did I write anything about movement in here? I wrote about teleporting. Yeah, I'll just write characters move in cardinal directions. So they only ever rest on grid positions. But they can get in battles between tiles. And they move smoothly when walking between tiles. Yeah. Okay. How many characters do we expect you to have at the end of the game? So this is always based on, of course, how many characters there even are in the game. You can't have more than there are. And I only wanted you to have one of each character. And especially now that you're just picking different mods, I think that makes sense. So how many characters should we aim to design? And how many should you have to manage? And like I said, I think fewer than 5 is not enough, and more than like 20 is way too much. So pretty much somewhere between 5 to 20. Depends on how many I design. I think ending up with about 9 seems to be good. Yeah, I like that idea. Somewhere around 9. And I want to write that down in the design. One character per class. You can have no more than 9 characters. That's a good mix between, well, feel like 5 would be too few and 15 would be too many. I'm not set on the exact number 9. It could be 8, it could be 10. I don't really care exactly, but. All right, how do we show battles? So this is a UI design question, and I don't exactly want to answer this right now either, but I think this is an issue that we kind of had in the game to begin with. If you have one character here and they're in a battle, and one character here and they're in a battle, and one character, let's have you go up there. Okay, so now wait for the battles to start. Here's one window. Oh, darn it. Right, there's no manual control anymore, so they're going to die. Okay, well, anyway, you have battles spread out like this, and it's just hard to see what's going on. So yeah, what if they were all consolidated in one space in that game? Would they be pre-made, or will you dynamically render their features such as clothing, gear? They'll probably be pre-made. I don't think that I don't want to spend a lot of money on the game. So like my budget, I'm planning about $500 of like an upfront budget. So that'll go to platform costs, some asset packs for sprites and sounds, and that's about it, I guess. I plan for something else. I don't know. Yeah, so this prevents me from doing a lot of different things that might be possible with, you know, like customize your eye color or something. It's like, well, then I need to split all the sprites out into their eyes and color those differently, or like, you know, customize the shader so it's aware of eyeball positions and then change the pixel colors. A skill carries a class calculating output, which has some data like base damage, etc. The target calculates the damage dealt based on it. I think it's going to be the battle that calculates it, actually, because the battle may have something else to take into account. Like, well, I don't know. I guess it doesn't really matter. Yeah. Anyway, it'll be something like that. Final game should have a player-wide skill tree. Maybe people would appreciate something that's just visual, building a town. Oh yeah, this is something I hadn't fully talked about, but there could be a secondary system that is purely visual. So, you know, your town is getting built up or something, but there's not much to it. I like the idea of building up a town too, by the way. Render as a new. Yeah, it could be AI doing all that for you. Yep. I think completing zones is probably not super important. But yeah, it'd be kind of neat to have like your starter zone is a town and there's a character and you manually control your character at first. I do need to think of what's the starting experience. So what's the starting experience? I'm thinking that you start, well, go something like this, right? Title screen, sure. New game, sure. Character select. I mean, that's all obvious. And then you're put into a town on the world map with like one hut and one NPC. The NPC tells you some basic story, and then you manually control the movement of your character to get them into battles in the forest zone. Yeah. Could there be an area to save in-game progress? I don't think there needs to be an area. I think you'll just press escape and hit save, or lose auto save or something. Yeah, I don't think we need to do that. Also, I think being in an area to save makes more sense when there's only one character you're controlling. So it's like you make it to a save point or a save friendly area. But when you've got like 9 different characters all over the map, having to funnel them all to a castle wouldn't really make sense. You could use that to unlock farming locations for materials used to build a town. Might just add unnecessary complexity though. Yeah, I'm going to hold off on that and we'll see. I don't know when, but I kind of mentioned this checkpoint system, but I'm picturing this. Like the prototype took 3 weeks to get everything that you see. So I'm hoping that about a month into the development of the real game, we have like roughly what the prototype does, but with less content in terms of systems, I suppose. And then another month and we see some progress with new systems. And so I'm hoping sometime around like month 2 or 3 is we can tell if the game is fun for like real new players. So ideally unbiased people, you know, I share it on a subreddit or something, people who don't know me and are just like, yeah, I had fun, or no, this sucked. Does that area remain empty? No, it's going to respawn enemies. Yeah. Yeah, the idea of claiming zones is not something I think I want to do. And I think I also want to make it so that enemies respawn pretty slowly, actually. So like right now, if I get into fights over here, you can see a bat just spawned in. Let me get into this fight too. Yeah, so like I can't easily clear out the zone right now, but imagine if I could by having 2 different characters fighting here. Like now there's only 1 rat. We've almost killed everything. Yeah. There we go. Everything's dead now. So imagine you were in the state for a little bit longer, so you did need to spread out your characters a little bit. If you're not there to fight them, then there's no reason to go back to get diminishing returns. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. There will be zones in the game where you've exceeded their usefulness and you're just not going back to them. And I mean, that's true for how a lot of games work. A lot of RPGs have a low level zone and you just never need to go back there for any reason. Alternatively, maybe the regions change over time and like the well is poisoned or something and these bats get to level 50 all of a sudden and you do need to go back there for something to unpoison the well. I'm not sure. Could be ways to do that. I'll write it down as an idea. There could be quests or some state of the game that makes the starter zones stronger so that you have a reason to go back. It's not super important to have a reason, but it's a way to reuse zones that were made. Yeah. All right. Yeah, so that concept of building up a town, I like that idea. Where did I write that down? Here. Yeah. Building a castle / town or conquering the world. Even just adding some NPCs, huts, ponds, whatever, etc. would be nice. Now, what if this is what's turning into the secondary system? Like I was picturing that you beat a boss and whatever, a new hut shows up in town, a blacksmith or something like that. And the blacksmith ends up giving all your characters a better weapon upgrade. I don't know. And then, what if you had multiple towns? Maybe you could choose which town you want to upgrade. Maybe you have multiple towns and you're choosing which one to upgrade. That could be an interesting enough secondary system. E.g. getting 5 houses in a town could complete a quest, but getting them in the far away town or the distant town could unlock a new zone. I don't know. I gotta get going pretty soon. All right. We have a bunch of other questions, a bunch of other ideas. My first real tasks, actually, my first task begins this week, which is, like I said, put together a team. And I'm talking to Darkstorm and Quickie Joe. And Darkstorm will be joining as a dev and Quickie Joe as probably an artist. So that's this week. Then I think next week is going to be make the new design document like final. Just yeah. And then the week after is probably start coding. That's what I think I want to do. Super satisfying in Far Cry 3 when you clear an enemy encampment, the good guys move in and start a little village. Yeah, I think there could be a zone sort of like that. In fact, I'll write that down under the ideas that I had too. Yeah. Similarly, zones could be cleared of enemies entirely, and the region could turn into a town. I think that seeing the world evolve in some way would be great. Or a zone in its entirety could be removed, thus shrinking the world map a bit. I do like this idea. Like, imagine if, you complete this zone and your characters all move through this door, and then this zone like shuffles around to a different part of the board. And now it's like an end game forest and it gets its fog of war back. I don't know. Anyway, the little things could be done about that, and I think that could be interesting. All right, I've got to get going. Today was interesting, and I think it's going to be neat making this game and just kind of figuring out where to go with it. Lots of ideas, lots of things we need to comb through. Yeah, I'll write this down here. But yeah, thank you all for watching. I'm going to go find someone to raid. I won't be able to stick around. Let's see. I have rated so many people. All right, I don't think I've rated this person. Let me see. Have I? No, I don't think so. Okay, cool. I'm gonna raid this person. Thank you all for watching. I won't be able to stick around, like I said. If you want to join on Discord, there's the link to that. YouTube, I'm going to make a new video tomorrow and probably actually release it tomorrow instead of waiting till Wednesday. But I had a good time. Hope you all have a good time. I will see you on Monday of next week. So no more streams the rest of this week. And then we'll get back into game design and like moving forward to this stuff. So I hope you have a good rest of your week. Take care. See ya.